The twin moons of ardent prime hung low in the sky, their silver light falling over the dusty market town of Iron Creek. It was a strange place, a border town between human lands and dragon territory, where old machines rusted beside ancient scales. Travelers came here to trade, to gamble, and sometimes to forget. On that quiet evening, a tall figure wrapped in a worn cloak walked slowly through the crowd. Beneath the hood, golden eyes glimmered. Not human, not entirely. Her name was Sereth, once known among the dragon clans as the Crimson Flame. Long ago, her scales shone brighter than the stars, and her beauty was sung across the colonies. But that was before age had crept into her wings, dulling the shine of her fire. Now she was just another mail-order bride, returned to the exchange post like a broken package. The humans had ordered dragon brides for their outer rim settlers, a strange custom born from peace treaties. But when her human groom saw the faint lines of age beneath her eyes, he refused her. Too old, he had said, turning away. So they sent her back, tagged, labeled unwanted. Sereth carried her small pack to the edge of town. She could hear whispers behind her as she walked. That's the one who got sent back. A dragon lady too old to mate. Others laughed, their words burning sharper than any flame. She kept her head down, her claws hidden beneath gloves, her wings folded tight under the cloak. Night fell fast. The neon signs blinked weakly as she passed the saloon. Her throat ached from thirst, but she didn't stop. She had no credits left, and no reason to stay. But fate has a strange way of finding the lost. As she turned down the alley behind the old starport, a voice called out, "You lost, ma'am?" She froze. The voice was deep, quiet, with that slow drawl only found in old earthborn cowboys. Out from the shadows stepped a man. Tall, rugged, hat low over his eyes, a dusted coat that had seen many suns. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Eli Carter. He had been a rancher once, on the far plains of Texas, before the planet dried and the stars called his kind elsewhere. Now he worked alone, herding biomech cattle on this forgotten world, miles from anyone. Sereth said nothing, only lowered her gaze. "I'm just passing through," she muttered. Eli looked her over, the cloak, the weariness in her stance, the faint shimmer of scales at her neck when the wind shifted. He didn't stare like the others. He just tipped his hat. "Ain't safe walking alone out here. Folk get the wrong ideas." "I can handle myself," she said quietly. "I bet you can." He smiled, slow and genuine. "Still, I reckon a warm drink might help. My ranch ain't far. You can rest if you've nowhere to go." For a moment she hesitated. Trust was dangerous, especially with humans. But his tone held no pity, no mockery. Only warmth. And something in her chest, something long buried, whispered that maybe, for one night, she could rest. She nodded. All right. The journey to his ranch was silent but peaceful. The sky stretched endless above them, stars scattered like diamonds. Eli rode an old hover bike, its engine humming softly, while she sat behind him, her claws gripping the edge lightly. The wind carried the scent of dust and dry metal, but beneath it, she caught something else, the faint smell of grass, of life. When they reached his home, it wasn't much. A small cabin with a rusted barn, the lights flickering weakly, but it felt alive. There were tools on the porch, a small radio humming old Earth songs, and a dog, half mechanical, half fur, wagging its tail. "Name's Rusty," Eli said, scratching the dog's head. "He don't bite unless you look like trouble." Sereth almost smiled. "Then I suppose I should keep my hood on." Eli chuckled softly. "You can take it off if you want. I've seen dragon folk before. Don't bother me none." That surprised her. Most humans avoided her kind. Slowly, she pulled down her hood. The soft lamplight touched her features, the faint horns curving back, the fading red tint of her scales, the tired but proud eyes of someone who had lived too long alone. Eli's gaze didn't change. He just nodded, pouring her a mug of warm synth coffee. "You look like you been through hell." "I was supposed to be married," she said softly. "They sent me back, said I was too old." Eli leaned against the counter. Well, hell. Guess age don't mean much when you've still got fire in your eyes. She looked up, surprised. You mock me? No, ma'am, he said simply. I just call it like I see it. For the first time in many years, she laughed. Quiet, uncertain, but real. Outside, the wind howled through the dry plains, and a storm began to brew. Eli went to secure the barn doors, while Sareth watched him through the window. There was something steady about the man, something solid, unshaken. She could feel the weight of his loneliness too, heavy like her own. When he came back in, rain beginning to fall, he found her standing by the window, wings half unfolded. The silver light from the moons reflected off her scales, turning her into something almost divine. He stopped in the doorway, breath caught. You're beautiful, you know that? Her heart thudded painfully. I was. Once. No, he said quietly. You still are. The silence between them grew thick. The storm roared outside, lightning flashing across the plains. And then, a loud bang echoed from outside. Rusty barked, mechanical gears whirring. Eli's hand went straight to his sidearm. Stay here. Saretha's instincts flared. She smelled something: smoke, oil, and human greed. She moved beside him, eyes glowing faint gold. Who are they? Bandits, he said grimly. They raid out here sometimes. Don't like dragons much. Before he could stop her, she pushed past him, stepping into the rain. Her cloak fell away, wings spreading wide, lightning reflecting across her scales. Eli watched in stunned silence as the woman who had been called too old to love stood tall against the storm. A dragon once more. The bandits froze at the sight. One fired, the bullet melting midair as a burst of flame roared from her mouth, lighting the dark sky. They scattered, terrified, vanishing into the night. When it was over, she fell to her knees, smoke curling from her lips. Eli ran to her, kneeling beside her in the mud. Hey, you all right? She smiled weakly. It's been a long time since I burned anything. He helped her up, his hands warm against her chilled skin. You sure as hell still got it. For the first time, she saw something in his eyes. Not fear, not pity, but admiration. And maybe, just maybe, something more. The rain slowed. The night grew quiet again. Eli looked at her, the corners of his mouth lifting. You said they sent you back, 'cause you were too old. She nodded. Well, he said softly, stepping closer. Maybe they were just too blind to see what they had. You're not too old, Sareth. You're just mine if you'll have me. Her breath caught, a spark of warmth flickering in the ashes of her heart. And for the first time in decades, the dragon lady felt wanted. The next morning came soft and golden, the air still heavy with the scent of last night's rain. The plains outside Eli's ranch glimmered under the twin suns, every blade of metal grass catching the light. Inside the cabin, Sareth woke slowly, feeling the strange peace of safety, something she hadn't known in years. She stretched her wings carefully, the joints aching, a reminder of her long years of exile. Across the small room, Eli was already awake, fixing a cup of synth coffee and humming an old earth tune. The sound was warm, comforting. You sleep okay? He asked without turning around. Yes, she said softly. Better than I have in a long time. He handed her a mug. Their fingers brushed for a moment, small, but enough to send an unfamiliar warmth through her. Outside, the wind hummed low across the plains. The storm had cleared the air, but not the silence between them. She sipped her drink slowly, watching him through half-lidded eyes. There was something steady about this human, something that made her heartbeat feel strange. You really shouldn't have gone out there last night, Eli said finally. You could have been killed. Saretha's lips curved faintly. And you could have been too if I hadn't. He smirked. Fair point. Then, after a pause, he added, Still, I ain't used to someone fighting beside me. Not since the war. What war? She asked. The border rebellions, he said quietly. When humans tried to take more dragon land than the treaties allowed. Lost a lot of good men. Lost my wife too. Her eyes softened. I'm sorry. He shrugged. Was a long time ago. You learned to live with ghosts out here. Sareth stared down into her cup. I know what that feels like. They stood in silence for a while, two souls carrying different kinds of loneliness. Then Eli broke it with a small smile. Well, if you're gonna stay a bit, I could use an extra hand on the ranch. The auto herders need tune-ups, and the cattle don't fix themselves. She tilted her head, surprised. You would trust a dragon with your machines? He chuckled. I trust you. You seem like you know how to handle fire. The words made her heart skip. Just a little. All right, she said quietly. I'll help. The next few days passed in a strange, peaceful rhythm. Eli taught her how to manage the biomech cattle, creatures made of living tissue and steel. They roamed the open plains like shining beasts, powered by small fusion hearts. Sareth, with her dragon senses, guided them easily. Her instincts sharp, her voice calm. At night, they'd sit on the porch under the wide alien sky, listening to the hum of insects and the crackle of Eli's old radio. He'd tell her stories of Earth. Blue skies, real oceans, wild horses. While she told him tales of her people, of fire mountains and flight paths that touched the stars. And little by little, something fragile began to grow between them. But peace never lasts long on the frontier. On the fourth day, a ship roared down from orbit, sleek, silver, and marked with the sigil of the Galactic Marriage Bureau. The same agency that had sold Sareth as a bride and sent her back like freight. Eli saw it first from the ridge. We got company, he muttered. Sareth froze. Her claws tightened around the railing. They found me. Two officers stepped off the ramp. One human, one android. The human's face was pale, sharp, too clean for a place like this. By order of the Bureau, he said, we're here to reclaim property listed as Dragon Asset 77S. That's you, isn't it? Saretha's chest tightened. Property. Even after all this time, they still used that word. Eli stepped forward. She ain't property. She's a person. The officer's lip curled. This is official business, Settler. Stay out of it. I said no, Eli growled, hand twitching near his sidearm. The android's eyes flashed blue. Non-compliance detected. Use of force authorized. Before Eli could react, Sareth stepped between them. Her wings flared wide, scales catching the light. You will not take me again, she said, her voice low and dangerous. The air shimmered, heat rippling as her anger stirred the old fire within her. The android raised its weapon, but before it could shoot, a wave of flame erupted from Saretha's chest, controlled and sharp. The gun melted instantly, the machine's circuits sparking. The officer stumbled back, shouting, This is an act of aggression. You'll both be prosecuted. Eli drew his revolver, old, scratched, but steady. You'll have to get off my land first. They retreated to their ship, shouting threats and warnings. When the engines roared to life, Sareth turned away, trembling. Her energy drained. Eli reached for her shoulder. You all right? They'll come back, she whispered. They'll send more. They never forgive disobedience. Eli's jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready. That night she couldn't sleep. She stood outside under the stars, the wind cool against her face. Her fire still hummed inside her chest. Wild, dangerous, ancient. She thought of the Bureau, of the humans who had judged her as a product. But then she thought of Eli, his quiet strength, his kindness. Maybe humans weren't all the same. Maybe some hearts still knew how to see. Inside the cabin, Eli sat by the window watching her. He could see the glow of her scales, the sadness in her eyes. He wanted to say something, to promise her she was safe. But he'd seen enough war to know promises meant little when power came knocking. He stood, walked outside, and joined her. You're thinking about running again, he said softly. She looked away. If I stay, you'll be in danger. I've been in danger all my life. You don't understand, she said. They'll call me a rogue dragon. That means death. Eli reached for her hand, rough skin meeting smooth scales. Then I'll fight with you. You saved me once. Guess it's my turn. Her eyes shimmered faint gold. Why, Eli? You owe me nothing. He smiled, slow and honest. Maybe I just don't like people throwing away good things. You deserve to live free. And I ain't ready to lose you yet. The words struck deep. Her heart ached with warmth and fear all at once. Before she could reply, the ground beneath them rumbled. The horizon lit with a faint blue glow, distant lights, moving fast. Drones. The Bureau had returned. Eli's face hardened. They're not wasting time. Saratha's wings snapped open, wind whipping through the dust. Then neither will we. They ran toward the barn. Eli grabbed his rifle. Sarath ignited her inner fire once more. The night filled with the sound of engines. Above, the drones descended like metal vultures, searchlights cutting through the dark. A robotic voice echoed across the plain. Surrender the dragon entity. Failure to comply will result in termination. Eli looked at Sarath. We're not surrendering, are we? She smiled, fierce, unbroken. Not tonight. The first drone fired. She spun, flame roaring from her mouth, striking the air with a burst of light. Eli's rifle cracked beside her, taking down another. Rusty barked, charging toward the barn, helping herd the frightened biomech cattle away from the fire. The sky burned with chaos. Man and dragon fighting side by side under the twin moons. For a moment, it felt like the universe itself was watching. When the smoke cleared, a dozen drones lay broken on the sand. The Bureau's ship retreated once more, engines sparking. Eli leaned on his rifle, panting. You all right? Sarath turned to him, chest rising and falling, eyes glowing softly. You're crazy, human. He grinned. Takes one to know one. And though the night smelled of smoke and danger, a quiet laughter rose between them, small, real, alive. But far above them, in the cold dark of orbit, the Bureau wasn't done. A transmission pulsed through the void, sent to someone far more powerful. Target 77S has gone rogue. Requesting retrieval by order authority. And deep in the shadows of the galactic core, something ancient answered the call. The smoke from the battlefield still drifted across the plains when dawn rose again. The air smelled like burnt metal and ash. Broken drone pieces littered the sand like scattered bones. Sarath stood among them, wings half-folded, eyes watching the horizon for more danger. Eli worked in silence beside her, gathering what remained of the wreckage. They'll be back, he said finally. You said they don't forgive. They won't stop until I'm gone, she whispered. Or dead. He looked at her, really looked, and saw the weariness behind her proud posture. Then we run, he said. She turned to him sharply. Run where? There's nowhere the Bureau doesn't reach. Eli smiled faintly. You ever been to the outer belts? Past the trade routes, beyond their patrols? Whole planets out there no one cares to visit. She hesitated. You'd leave your home? Everything you built. Home's just wood and dust, he said softly. You're the one thing that makes it feel alive. Her heart stilled for a moment. Words like that, she hadn't heard in centuries, not from any dragon or man. Before she could reply, Rusty barked, a warning sound. A distant hum trembled through the air, low and sharp. Saratha's pupils narrowed. Something's coming. Eli grabbed his scope and scanned the sky. A ship was descending fast, black, armored, sleek as a blade. Its wings cut through the clouds like a predator's. This was no Bureau drone. It was something worse. They sent an order enforcer, she said, voice tight. They only call them when dragons defy capture. The ship landed hard in the valley, sand billowing. The ramp opened, and out stepped a tall figure in dark armor, the air shimmering faintly around him from embedded tech. His face was human, but his eyes, those were dragon. Gold and burning. Saratha's breath caught. By the flames. That's no human. Eli frowned. What is he? Half-blood, she said. Born from dragon and man. Made for war. The enforcer's voice carried across the field, amplified by his armor. Sarath of the Crimson Flame. You are under order for termination and retrieval. Surrender peacefully. Her claws flexed. I know that voice, she murmured. He was trained by my clan before the wars. Eli looked at her, then back at the soldier. Sounds like he won't take no for an answer. The enforcer stepped forward, his golden eyes fixed on her. You've shamed both bloodlines. The Bureau wants your ashes, but I want your surrender. Don't make me destroy what's left of your honor. Saratha's voice trembled with rage. Honor? You serve those who cage us like pets. The enforcer didn't flinch. I serve order. You serve chaos. Eli whispered. You're not talking your way out of this, are you? She smiled sadly. No, I never do. In a flash of movement, fire and plasma collided. The enforcer's blade hissed to life, a weapon made from dragon fang and human tech. Saratha's wings flared, sending a burst of heat that melted the sand beneath her feet. The clash shook the valley. Eli dove for cover, firing at the enforcer's drones as they swarmed around them. Sarath met her enemy midair, flame against energy, strength against precision. The sound was deafening, like thunder cracking through metal. The enforcer's voice boomed through the chaos. You're past your prime, old flame. You can't win this. Saratha's eyes blazed brighter. Maybe not, but I can still burn. Her wings snapped forward, unleashing a wave of molten fire that split the sky. The enforcer staggered, his armor melting at the edges. But he was strong, faster than any human, colder than any dragon. His blade slashed across her wing, searing pain shooting through her body. She fell hard, crashing into the sand near Eli. Blood, golden and glowing, dripped from her shoulder. Eli rushed to her, grabbing his rifle. Stay down. He fired again and again, each shot striking sparks off the enforcer's armor. Come on, you metal bastard, he shouted. The enforcer turned, eyes narrowing. You defend her? A human defending a dragon? Eli spat into the sand. You bet your shiny scales I do. The enforcer raised his arm, charging a plasma bolt. But before he could fire, Sarath rose behind him, eyes blazing. You forgot one thing, she hissed. He turned too late. Her fire exploded point-blank, hitting him with the full fury of a dragon's rage. The shockwave threw both of them apart, the heat melting the sand into glass. Eli ran to her, coughing through smoke. Sarath, she groaned, weak but alive. He's not done. Through the steam, the enforcer stumbled forward. Armor cracked, one eye darkened, but still moving. You should have stayed in the caves where you belong, he growled. Eli pulled her to her feet. We can't fight him again, not here. She nodded, breathing hard. The ship. If we reach his ship, I can override it. Then we run. Together, they sprinted through the smoke, Rusty barking and limping beside them. The enforcer roared, chasing close behind, energy blade dragging sparks across the sand. The world narrowed to heartbeats. One human, one dragon, running toward a single desperate hope. They reached the ramp just as the enforcer fired. The plasma bolt hit the side, sending shards flying. Sarath pushed Eli inside, taking the hit across her back. She cried out, falling to her knees. Sarath! Eli grabbed her, shaking her shoulders. Stay with me. Her hand trembled against the console. I can fly it. Just cover me. He turned and fired toward the ramp. The enforcer stepped closer, each shot bouncing off his cracked armor. You can't escape, he growled. Watch us, Eli snapped. Sarath slammed her claw against the ship's control. The engines roared to life, the entire vessel shaking. The enforcer lunged forward just as the hatch slammed shut, his blade slicing sparks across the door. The ship lifted off, fire blasting from the thrusters. Through the viewport, Eli saw the enforcer below, small but unbroken, staring up with burning eyes. Then they were gone, shooting into the clouds. Inside, the cabin filled with the hum of old engines. Sarath slumped against the chair, breathing shallow. We did it, she whispered. Eli knelt beside her. You're bleeding bad. I've bled worse. She smiled weakly. You were brave, human. He He brushed the hair from her face. You saved me first. Guess I'm just paying it back. Outside the viewport, the world of Iron Creek grew smaller, a dot swallowed by stars. Where now? He asked. She looked up at the endless night. There's a place dragons once called home, the Ashen Nebula. It's beyond the Bureau's reach. If we can make it there. Eli nodded. Then we'll make it. For a while, they sat in silence, the stars drifting by. Then she turned her head, studying him. You still want to help me, after all this? He smiled. I told you before, Sereth. I'm not leaving you. Her chest tightened, not from pain but something deeper. She reached for his hand, fingers trembling. Then maybe, she said softly, I wasn't rejected after all. The stars outside glowed brighter as the ship carried them toward the unknown. But far behind them, the enforcer stood on the smoking plain, his golden eye flickering. He touched his communicator. Subject escaped. Initiate pursuit. A cold voice replied through static. Understood. Deploy Hunter Squadron 7. Bring them back, alive if possible. Dead if necessary. The enforcer raised his gaze to the stars where their ship had vanished. You can run, old flame, he whispered. But the hunt has only begun. And with a flash of thrusters, he rose into the sky, following their trail through the darkness of space. The stars stretched forever beyond the ship's window, endless, silent, cold. For 3 days, Sereth and Eli drifted through the outer lanes, running from the Bureau's signal. The hum of the old engine was the only sound, a steady heartbeat in the dark. Sereth had repaired what she could, though the ship was battle-damaged. Energy flickered through half-dead circuits, and the oxygen scrubbers groaned from overuse. Still, it was freedom, fragile but real. Eli sat at the co-pilot's chair, eyes half-closed. Never thought I'd end up in space again, he said with a dry chuckle. Used to think the stars were for the lucky ones. Sereth glanced at him. And now, he smiled faintly. Now I think maybe luck had nothing to do with it. She didn't answer. Her gaze drifted to the stars, to the vast emptiness that once belonged to her kind. There was a time, she said softly, when dragons ruled the skies. We built nests among the stars, breathing fire into new suns. Now look at us, sold as brides, traded for peace. Eli leaned back. Worlds got a cruel way of forgetting who built it. Their eyes met, two souls from dying worlds, bound by fate's strange humor. But even peace in flight was a fragile thing. On the 4th day, a warning light flared across the console. Sereth's claws flew across the controls. Signal trace, she muttered. They've found us. Eli cursed under his breath. How far? Too close, she said. They must have followed our heat trail. Through the viewport, blue lights flickered in the distance, small but growing. Drones. Hold on, Eli said, tightening his grip on the controls. We're not going down without a fight. Sereth hesitated. We can't fight here. The ship's too damaged. We need to hide. Where? She checked the charts. There's a mining colony nearby Haven's Reach. It's abandoned. We can land there, repair, and vanish before they scan. Eli nodded. Then let's pray your map's right. The ship dove toward the rocky moon below. Clouds of red dust rose as they entered the thin atmosphere. The engines screamed in protest, but Sereth held steady. They landed hard, not graceful but alive. The base was dead quiet. Broken towers, half-buried domes, and the skeletons of machines that hadn't worked in decades. Rust and silence everywhere. Eli grabbed his rifle. Home sweet home. Sereth smiled faintly. At least no one will bother us. They set up camp inside an old command center. The air was dry but breathable. She began repairing the ship systems while Eli scavenged for supplies. Cables, power cells, anything that still worked. Hours turned into days. Slowly, the quiet between them grew warmer. At night, they sat beside a small heater, sharing old stories. I ever tell you, Eli said, how I ended up on Ardent Prime? Was supposed to be a simple job. Round up some cattle, earn some credits. Then the wars came. The skies burned, and I just never left. Sareth looked at him from across the dim light. You stayed because you had no one waiting. He nodded. Guess so. Her eyes softened. Now you do. The words hung between them, soft but heavy. Eli's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to tell her how much she meant. But before he could, Rusty growled. The hairs on Eli's neck rose. He reached for his weapon. What is it, boy? Sareth stood, her golden eyes glowing faintly. Something's outside. They moved to the doorway. The wind howled across the empty outpost, carrying the metallic scent of ozone. Then, in the distance, a shadow moved, tall, steady, familiar. The enforcer. He had found them. Eli cursed under his breath. How in hell? His armor, Sareth said quickly. It carries dragon blood. He can sense me. The enforcer's voice echoed through a comm device. Calm but cold. Running again, old flame? You're getting predictable. Sareth's claws curled. You should have died on Ardent. Death doesn't come easy to what we are, he replied. And neither does mercy. Surrender, and your human won't suffer. Eli raised his rifle. He's gonna regret saying that. Sareth placed a hand on his arm. No, he wants me to fight. He feeds on it. Then what do we do? She looked around quickly, her mind racing. There's an old reactor under this base, still active. If I can overload it, it'll wipe this place clean. Eli frowned. That'll kill us too. Not if we reach the ship in time. The enforcer's silhouette moved closer through the dust. His golden eyes glowed like small suns. You have 10 seconds, he called. Sareth's voice dropped low. Go. I'll draw him off. Eli grabbed her wrist. Not this time. Their eyes locked. Human and dragon. Defiance mirrored in both. Then she nodded. Together, then. They ran into the tunnels beneath the base. The enforcer followed, his heavy steps echoing behind them. The air shimmered with heat and electricity as they reached the reactor core. A massive sphere of cracked energy coils still pulsing faintly. Sareth moved fast, her claws striking sparks from the old panel. I need 2 minutes. Eli crouched behind a console, aiming his rifle down the hall. You've got 1. The enforcer's voice came closer. You can't win, Sareth. You were the strongest once. Now you're just a fading ember. Sareth's voice trembled but held firm. Even embers can start fires. The lights flickered. A deep hum filled the chamber as the reactor began to charge. Energy rippled through the floor. Eli fired, his shots echoing down the corridor. The enforcer deflected one, then another, the impacts shaking the walls. A burst of plasma hit Eli's shoulder, throwing him back. Eli, Sareth cried. I'm fine, he gritted out, blood seeping through his sleeve. Finish it. The enforcer stepped into the light. His armor was cracked, his movements slower, but his eyes burned with fury. You think this human will save you? He'll die because of you. Sareth rose, wings spreading wide. Then he'll die for something real, not like you. She unleashed her fire. It struck the enforcer square in the chest, throwing him back into the metal wall. The heat melted steel and bone alike. He roared in pain and laughter. You still burn bright, old flame, he hissed. But not for long. The reactor's alarm screamed. Red lights flared. The ground shook violently. Sareth, now? Eli shouted. She slammed her claw against the final switch. A wave of energy burst outward, white hot. The walls split apart, molten light flooding the tunnels. Eli grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the exit. Rusty ran beside them, barking wildly. The enforcer staggered to his feet, reaching for them, but the explosion swallowed him whole. They burst into the open air just as the reactor blew. A blinding flash tore through the sky, turning the mining colony into fire and dust. The shockwave hit them hard, throwing them into the sand. When the light faded, everything was quiet. The base was gone, a crater of glowing glass. Eli groaned, pushing himself up. You alive? Sareth coughed, smoke curling from her lips. Barely. Rusty limped over, whining softly. Eli smiled weakly and scratched his head. Good boy. They turned toward the horizon. The enforcer was gone, buried beneath the wreckage. For now. Eli looked at her, breathing hard. Think that'll stop him? Sareth shook her head slowly. No, but it'll slow him. He nodded. Then we use that time to get to the Ashen Nebula. She looked up at him, tired but proud. You would still follow me there? After everything? Eli grinned, brushing dust from her cheek. Darlin', I already followed you through hell. For the first time since she'd been rejected, Sareth smiled. Not the polite smile of a dragon hiding pain, but the warm smile of someone finally seen. She leaned closer, her voice soft. Then maybe this is where I start living again. And as their battered ship lifted from the ashes of Haven's Reach, two lonely souls disappeared into the starlit dark, hunted, wounded, but together. Far behind, deep beneath the crater, a faint light flickered among the ruins. A single golden eye opened. The enforcer lived, and he was smiling. The ship floated silently through the void. Stars shimmered like scattered embers, and the blackness of space stretched forever. After weeks of running, Sareth and Eli finally reached the edge of the known galaxy, the place where maps ended and legends began. The Ashen Nebula. It glowed faintly ahead, a swirling storm of gray and violet gas. The stars behind it seemed to vanish as though swallowed whole. Old stories said it was once the home of dragons, a sanctuary of fire and wind, hidden beyond human reach. Sareth sat at the controls, her eyes fixed on the nebula. I never thought I'd see it again, she whispered. Eli leaned back in his seat, rubbing his sore shoulder. Looks like a storm that never ends. It is, she said softly. The nebula was made when the last dragon kings fell. Their flames became dust, their bones became stars. No one who enters ever returns. Eli grinned faintly. Guess we'll be the first. She smiled, though her eyes were heavy. You humans always say that before dying. He laughed quietly. Maybe, but we also tend to surprise people. She looked at him for a long moment. The strange man with scarred hands and an unbreakable heart, and something in her chest ached in a way that wasn't pain. They entered the nebula. The ship shook violently as gravity waves rippled around them. The sky outside turned wild. Flashes of silver and crimson lightning cut through the mist, lighting up shadows that moved like ghosts. Sareth gripped the controls. Hold steady. Eli glanced at her. You sure this is safe? No, she said. But it's the only place the Bureau can't find us. For hours, they drifted deeper until the storm suddenly eased. Ahead lay something no map had ever recorded. A massive ring of floating stone, glowing faintly with golden runes. At its center hung a shattered planet, cracked but alive, with streams of light flowing through its wounds. Sareth gasped. By the stars. The last nest. The what? Eli asked. Our home, she said softly. Before the wars, dragons built sanctuaries like this. Places where fire never dies. They landed near the planet's surface. The air shimmered with warmth. When Sareth stepped out, the ground beneath her feet pulsed faintly, recognizing her bloodline. Ancient symbols glowed around her like fireflies waking from a long sleep. This place still remembers me, she whispered. Eli looked around in awe. Feels like walking through history. They followed a broken path toward a massive temple carved from black stone. Inside, the walls were covered with glowing marks. Stories of dragons who once flew across the stars, of wars fought and lost. Sareth traced a claw across the carvings. My ancestors built this place. The humans came later after the treaties. They said they wanted peace, but they wanted control. Eli frowned. You think the Bureau was part of that? She nodded slowly. The Bureau didn't start as a marriage program. It began as an experiment, humans trying to breed dragon traits into their own soldiers. When it failed, they turned us into brides. Eli's jaw tightened. So they took everything from you. Your home, your people, even your freedom. She looked at him with tired eyes. And yet, somehow, you gave me something back. Before he could speak, the ground trembled. The air grew cold. Rusty barked, his sensors flashing red. Eli reached for his gun. What now? A shadow moved near the entrance. Tall, dark, and familiar. The enforcer. He stepped into the temple light. His armor blackened from the explosion, but his eyes burning gold. You really thought you could hide here? He said, voice calm but dangerous. Sereth stepped in front of Eli. How did you survive? The enforcer smiled faintly. You think fire can kill fire? The Bureau rebuilt me long ago. I was made from dragon blood, from your bloodline. Sereth froze. That's impossible. Not impossible, he said. You were their finest warrior once. They took your essence, cloned it, forged me from it. I am what you would have been if you never aged, if you never loved. Eli clenched his fists. So you're her shadow, a machine pretending to be alive. The enforcer's eyes narrowed. You talk like you understand what it means to live human. But you're nothing, a dying breed playing hero. Eli's voice was quiet, but steady. Maybe, but at least I still have a soul. The enforcer moved fast, faster than thought. His blade ignited with blue light. Sereth blocked the first strike with a burst of fire, but he was stronger now. Sparks filled the temple as stone cracked under the force of their blows. Eli fired, but the shots glanced off his armor. The enforcer turned and hurled him aside with a wave of energy. Eli hit the wall hard, pain exploding through his chest. Eli, Sereth cried. He coughed, forcing a grin. Still alive. Keep going. The enforcer raised his sword. You fight for a human who will die in days. How foolish. Sereth's wings flared. Then I'll burn the stars before I lose him. She unleashed her full fire. The flames hit like a storm, filling the temple with blinding light. The enforcer staggered back, but his armor absorbed much of it. Still, something inside the temple began to respond. The runes glowing brighter, ancient power awakening. Eli forced himself up. Sereth, the walls, they're reacting to you. She turned, realization dawning. It's the nest's core. It recognizes me as heir. The enforcer lunged again, but this time, she didn't dodge. She pressed her claw to the nearest symbol. Energy rushed through her body. Not fire, not light, but something older. The air trembled. A deep, ancient voice echoed through the temple. Blood of flame, keeper of sky. The nest remembers. The enforcer froze. What is this? Sereth's eyes burned gold white. It's the memory of our kind. The floor split open, revealing a glowing heart of molten energy. The temple itself began to rise, floating slowly into the air. The enforcer stumbled, his systems flickering. You can't control that, he shouted. Sereth's voice was calm, strong, filled with something more than rage, purpose. I was born to. Eli reached for her, shouting over the roar of energy. Sereth, what are you doing? She looked at him, tears glowing faintly in her eyes. Finishing what they started. The energy around her surged. The enforcer screamed as his armor began to melt under the raw power of Dragon Flame Reborn. He fired again, but his weapon disintegrated in his hands. Eli ran toward her, shielding his face from the heat. Sereth, stop. You'll destroy yourself. Her voice softened. Then at least I'll destroy their curse with me. The enforcer's last words echoed through the chaos. You'll burn everything. She looked at him with quiet sadness. Then let the fire remember who we were. A flash of light consumed the chamber. The walls cracked, and the ancient nest released its stored energy in one final surge. The blast threw Eli backward, everything turning white. Then silence. When he opened his eyes, the temple was gone. The air was still. The nebula outside glowed brighter than before, calm and beautiful. Sereth was lying a few feet away, motionless. Eli crawled to her, his heart breaking. Hey, don't do this. Come on. Her eyes fluttered open. Faint, tired, glowing softly. It's done, she whispered. The Bureau's control. It's gone. The enforcer. Gone too. Eli held her hand, tears streaking his dusty face. You did it, Sereth. You won. She smiled weakly. No, we did. Her fingers brushed his cheek. You gave me something they couldn't take, choice. Her eyes began to close. Don't let the stars forget us. Seraph, he began, but the words broke. And then her body shimmered. Not fading, not dying, but transforming. Light spread from her heart, rising into the air like embers floating home. The temple's remains glowed around her as her form dissolved into flame and starlight, merging with the nebula itself. Eli stared, breathless. The ashen nebula pulsed once, alive, as if welcoming her back. He whispered through the quiet, "You'll never be forgotten." Outside the ship, the nebula burned brighter than it had in centuries, and deep within its light, a faint dragon shape flew once more among the stars. Eli wiped his tears and stood tall. "Guess it's just me now," he murmured. "But I'll make sure they remember your fire." He turned toward the ship. Rusty limped beside him, loyal as ever. Together, they took off into the glowing horizon. But unknown to him, far away in the Bureau's command center, alarms blared. Screens flickered with red warnings. Ashen protocol breached. Dragon core reactivated. And somewhere, deep within the reborn nebula, a heartbeat echoed. Not human, not machine, but dragon. Seraph wasn't gone. She was becoming something greater. The nebula shimmered behind him like a living sea of fire. Eli sat in the pilot's seat, hands steady on the worn controls. Rusty lay near his boots, quiet but watchful. For the first time in weeks, there was no running, no pursuit, no signals on the radar. Just silence. But it didn't feel like peace. Everywhere he looked, he saw her. The faint glow in the stars, the whisper of heat in the air, the way the nebula flickered like a heartbeat. Seraph was still there, somewhere between life and light. He reached for the console, touching the screen where her last readings had appeared. "Guess you really became one with the stars," he murmured. "That's one way to ride off into the sunset." Rusty gave a low, sad whine. Eli smiled faintly. "Yeah, I miss her too." Suddenly, the radar lit up. A dozen red dots, Bureau interceptors. They were closing fast. Eli's jaw tightened. Guess they finally caught up. He started the engines, but something strange happened. The ship's power surged on its own. A deep hum filled the air, like distant thunder. The nebula outside began to pulse, its light wrapping around the ship. Then he heard it, soft, familiar. Her voice. "Eli." He froze. "Seraph." The lights flickered. A faint holographic shimmer appeared beside him. Seraph's image, glowing with golden fire. Her eyes were the same, fierce and warm. He couldn't breathe for a second. "You're alive." "Not alive," she said gently. "But not gone. The nest changed me. I'm part of the nebula now, its guardian." He swallowed hard. "You came back. I promised I wouldn't let the stars forget us," she said with a small smile. "And you're not done yet." Outside, the Bureau ships entered the nebula, dozens of them. Their commander's voice came through the radio, cold and confident. "This is Bureau Command. You are harboring stolen assets and violating interstellar law. Surrender immediately." Eli turned off the comm, always the same talk. Seraph's image flickered. "They want the dragon core I awakened. If they reach it, they'll enslave every living being with dragon blood. Then we can't let that happen." She looked at him proudly. "You've learned quickly, Cowboy." He grinned. "Must have had a good teacher." The Bureau fleet surrounded them, weapons ready. The sky filled with streaks of blue light, hundreds of missiles locking on target. Eli took a deep breath. "So what's the plan?" Seraph's eyes glowed brighter. "You just need to trust me one last time." The nebula outside began to swirl faster, forming massive energy waves. The air shimmered as if alive. The Bureau commander shouted orders, but it was too late. Seraph's voice echoed through the ship. "For every dragon they silenced, for every world they burned." The nebula exploded in light. Streams of golden fire shot through the clouds, twisting into shapes. Dragons, hundreds of them, made of pure energy and memory. They soared through the void, roaring in defiance. Eli's ship shook violently as the wave passed through him. But instead of burning, it lifted him, carried him on a tide of starlight. His controls glowed with runes. The ship was responding to her. "Sereth, what's happening?" he shouted. Her smile was calm. "I'm giving you what they feared most, freedom." The spectral dragons dove into the Bureau fleet. One by one, the ships fell apart, torn by light and fire. Their weapons melted. Their engines died. In minutes, the vast armada was gone, scattered dust among the stars. When the light faded, only Eli's ship remained, floating in quiet space. He looked at her hologram, eyes wet. "You did it." "No," she said softly. "We did." The nebula outside had calmed. Its glow was warm now, peaceful. Sereth's image began to fade slowly, her outline breaking into sparks. Eli reached toward her. "Wait, don't go yet." Her voice trembled gently. "You gave me something I never had. Someone who saw me as more than what I was made for. I was born to be a bride, but you made me feel like I was alive." He smiled through the ache. "You are alive, darling. In here." He touched his chest. She looked at him one last time, her eyes full of light. "Then that's enough." The sparks drifted away, vanishing into the soft hum of the ship. The nebula pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and then silence. Eli sat for a long time, staring out at the stars. Then he reached for the ship's console and recorded a message. "This is Eli Cross," he said quietly. "Last survivor of Ardent Prime. To anyone still fighting the Bureau, she's gone. But her fire isn't. The dragons live on. We all do." He paused, looking at the nebula one more time. "And if anyone out there's still looking for hope, just follow the light. She'll show you the way." Rusty barked softly. Eli smiled, starting the engines. "Come on, boy. Let's see where her fire takes us next." The ship rose gently, drifting toward open space. Behind them, the ashen nebula glowed brighter than ever, and within its golden clouds, the faint shadow of a dragon flew, watching over them. And somewhere, across the stars, a whisper carried through the dark, soft and full of warmth. "You were all I ever wanted."